Hello and welcome. Well, I don't know which sort of person you are today. You might be a glass half empty person, somebody who's, although got plenty to drink, still looks for something more, feels quite empty. Or you may be a glass half full person, realizing that life could be a lot fuller, but there's still plenty to enjoy. And we all of us, don't we, flip from one to the other, and neither one nor the other is right. It's simply who we are at a particular time. Now, we're going through Lent in the company of the poet Catherine Charnley and looking at some of her devotional poems. The poem today speaks of the contrast between a life that seems tarnished and dull and a life that somehow, because of the awareness of the presence of God, can seem much brighter, more illuminated, a light full of possibility, a light that brings hope. If we think of things that we understand to be tarnished or dull, we might think of silverware. Or we might think of perhaps a landscape on a dull day. The silverware does look pretty sad, doesn't it? And the landscape looks uninviting, perhaps 30 seconds tops on that bench by the river. But underneath it, underneath the tarnish, is still glory and possibility. We just realize that things are not as they should be, and there is a coldness to them, a spoiltness, if you like, to them, awaiting to be touched by God. A bit like George Herbert's reference to the world being bleary. The touch of God can bring animation, and the touch of God can bring light and joy. But you can have an adventure in a dull place. Not sure where dull is, it's presumably in the Highlands of Scotland, which perhaps later in the year we may be able to be allowed to visit. Who knows? Let's pray. The touch of God, says Catherine Charnley, the approach of God brings healing, wonder, and transformation. With God, there is healing, wonder, and transformation. There is, as that landscape might feel in spring, animation, new life, the rustling of the leaves, the springing of the bulbs. There is life and cleansing and animation in the presence of God that wasn't there completely beforehand. It is, in fact, the presence of the face of God. Listen to this reading from the book of Numbers, chapter 6. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to Aaron and his sons. Thus you shall bless the Israelites. You shall say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace." The wonder of the gaze of God's love. It transforms a place of dullness to a place of joy. And let's be honest, is catching. Let's read the poem. Lord, away from you is no life. The brightness dulled, the sheen tarnished, a desolate emptiness. Under your touch, life is fire, a gleam that radiates through faces, flowers, buildings, the whole of creation. Life moves between union and separation. Now that church fete we saw the picture of is still just a gathering of frail human beings like you and I, and all the things we get right and all the things we get wrong on a sunny day, with love in the background. And that dear woman whose face shines full of joy will still have her own difficulties at the end of the day and possibly the beginning of the next. But somehow the shining of the face of God has illuminated them, even in the upsets of community, even in the suffering of day-to-day life. The touch of the face of God transfigures all. All can be transfigured within us by the risen Christ. Matthew chapter 17. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, This is my Son, the Beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him.